Hello and welcome back to Lorcana Villain. My name is Baker, and today I've got the top 8 deck lists from the 465 player event that took place in Ravensburger, Germany, hosted by Ravensburger. I had the pleasure of actually being able to attend this event, and it was super good. There was a live stream of it over on Twitch with the German commentary team, and I actually got to play in my first large event, the closest to a DLC that I've ever gotten to compete in, and I was super happy with my performance. At the end of the video, I'm going to show my deck list, and I'm going to talk all through it and talk about my run. I've got a bunch of footage to show and just a bunch of shout outs and just talking about the event in general to do. There will be one other piece of admin at the end where I will lightly touch on a very short stream that went out courtesy of Ravensburger yesterday with some quite big news. We'll touch on that at the end, but I want to keep the main focus of this video the top 8 deck lists. I would have done the top 16. Unfortunately, only 10 are available from the top 16, so I am going to show you all of those 10, the top 8 and 2 of the top 16. I want to give a shout out to Lorcana Justice over on Twitter, who I believe is the reason we have these lists as soon as we have. I've seen him putting out feelers to try and get hold of all these deck lists, so a special shout out to him. But I am excited to jump into these deck lists, so let's get on with it. A shout out to the channel sponsor Cardmarket. If you're looking for Lorcana singles at competitive rates, then check out Cardmarket. But let's take a look at the top deck lists. So starting off in first place, we have the first of 2 Amber Emerald decks, although both fairly different. First place being taken by Joe with some Chernadog. I was trying to get Lady and Lime over, which I do think is still good, but Chernadog is the one that the people have chosen, so I think that's as good as official. And we've been saying for a while, this deck looks pretty good. It's pretty fast. Against any control sort of decks, then you're going to give them a hard time. And even against the SteelSong decks and the stuff that would traditionally be good into you, if they don't have good starts and you can overwhelm them, this deck can absolutely go all the way. And in this event, it did. Nearly 500 players, an incredible achievement. And from what I heard, this player originally didn't even get a ticket to the main event because it was originally sold out at a 512 person cap. And Joel was apparently just going to come along and do side events, but due to a number of no-shows, was able to get himself a ticket into the main event and went all the way to first place and is now going to Disneyland Paris. So a huge shout out to Joel. And great to see this deck coming first. Always good as a content creator when you can talk about decks that aren't as popularly played. And I know the community enjoys seeing that anyway. So let's take a look through it. Hyper Aggro is the name of the game. We've got our 1-cost characters, like 4 copies of Daisy. On quest, your opponent looks at the top card of their deck. If it's a character, add it to their hand. There are a lot of decks at the moment with high action / song item packages. So in certain decks, Daisy can really get away with a lot. 3 copies of the Merfolk for those aggressive stats. And of course, forcing our opponent to discard. We are not a discard deck, but we're not going to moan if they're forced to. 3 copies of Lady, who's of course one of the star pieces here. 1 cost uninkable, 1/2 quest for 1. While you have a character named Tramp in play, this character gets +1 lore. And we have a plethora of tramps. We're playing 4 copies of the 2-cost 1/3 quest for 1, who you pay 1 less to play him if you have a Lady in play. And when you play him, a chosen character of yours gets +1 strength this turn for each other character you have in play. This board can go nice and wide, and you just think of it in the same respect as that you think of something like a Merlin Crab. Obviously, Crab is instantly Challenger 3 as opposed to Strength. And it doesn't matter how many characters you have on the board, but with a deck like this where you're likely to have a wide board, the plus in strength could be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There was a particular turn of the match, the finals against SteelSong, where both characters had the most insane board you've ever seen. So this tramp's super good for taking some of our lower cost characters and suddenly giving them pretty good challenging turns. And we're also running 4 copies of the Dual Ink Street Smart Dog, 7 cost inkable, 2/6 quest for 2. You pay 1 less to play him for each character you have in play, and as we just discussed, this board can go nice and wide. At the earliest, you can play this on turn 4 if you curved with a character on turns 1, 2, and 3. But later in the game, if you've got at least 7 characters on board, then you're just playing these tramps for free. And when you do play him, you draw a card for each other character you have in play, then choose and discard that many cards. So you're filtering through the deck, you're getting rid of uninkables or cards that aren't necessary in the particular matchup or the board state, finding super important things that you might need. The Rapunzel for more card draw, Ursula to snipe those songs, Go to Margot if there's a character on board with a lot of damage on him. Whatever it is you're looking for that this deck has in its toolbox, we can start digging towards it. And not to to mention putting characters into the discard. It's good for this deck anyway due to 2 characters. First off, we have the Floodborn Lady, who of course can shift onto our 1 cost. Doesn't have to though. She's a dual link, 5 cost uninkable 4/4 quest for 2, shift 3, and when you play her, you can return up to 2 characters from your with cost 2 or less from your discard to your hand. And we have so many 2 or less cost characters, 11 unique characters, all of course at high count, so good odds that we're going to be able to essentially +2 on this, or at least +1 if we shifted onto the smaller lady. And we're running 3 copies of Chernadog. You pay 1 less to play him for each character in your discard, and then when you do, you shuffle those cards into your discard. So that can be a bit of a danger if you're throwing away so many cards with Tramp. If you've got a large board, then the odds of potentially decking out become higher, especially if you're against wheel decks. But this Chernadog's just going to shuffle them back in there. And again, if you've managed to get a lot of characters into the discard just because they've been challenged, or you discarded them with the dual link Tramp. And we're also playing 4 copies of the 2-cost Yzma, who when you play her, you draw and discard a card. So lots of ways of filtering, getting characters into the discard. Good odds that we're going to be able to play this potentially for free at a relatively early point in the game. And a 9/9 quest for 3 beat stick is a lot to ask the opponent to answer. So a ton of synergy here with the discard pile. Worth noting 3 copies of Cricky here as well. 5 cost inkable, 3/4 quest for 3. And when you play him, all your other characters get +3 strength this turn. We talked about Tramp suddenly giving these low cost characters a nice challenging turn if we feel the need. And this Cricky's going to do that as well. And these 2 abilities work really well with two of our 1-drops, which I'll go back to now, which are Nala and Little John. Both 1-cost inkable 0/4s. So this is just a good turn 1 character to put down to help get out a lore or 2. 4 willpower can be quite hard to meet, but also synergizing, of course, with the Tramp and the Cricky to hit for 3, or potentially a lot more if you're using Tramp, and then potentially survive with that 4 willpower. And of course, the 4 willpower is going to aid us in setting up a Rapunzel trap. Rapunzel 4-cost inkable 1/5 quest for 2. When you play her, you remove up to 3 damage from one of your characters and draw a card for each one. So as you can see, a ton of synergy here, creating somewhat of a perfect circle in playstyle. Takes them back to my Yu-Gi-Oh days. But let's look at the other characters. We've got 2 copies of that Escape Artist Lilo, who at the beginning of your turn you can pay 2 ink to put her back on the board. Exerted, very good into the red decks after they want to play things like Be Prepared. 2 Piglet to quest for 3 if you've got 2 other characters on board, which we should have. 2 copies of Go-Go Tamago, who's evasive, and on play you can pay 2 extra ink and gain lore equal to the damage on a chosen character. So big board sitters like Maui can provide a lot of lore here, or even if you're just getting a 2 or 3 lore burst, that could be enough to close the game. Of course, Ursa's here to snipe songs. 3 copies of Donald Duck Musketeer Soldier, who's a bodyguard, and when you play him, one of your characters gets an extra lore for the turn, and lore is the name of the game. 3 copies of Kick Cloud Kick Up to bounce a character of 2 strength or more to their player's hand, so this is going to offset opponents and throw off their tempo a little bit. Not to mention you can use this on your own characters, something like a Go-Go Tamago or an Ursula, if you feel the need to get that come into playability again. 2 copies of Prince Philip, who I absolutely adore. 3-cost inkable 3/2 quest for 2, and Ward is never going to be put into range of something like a Sisu unless they're playing red-yellow and they combine it with something like a Kida, which of course doesn't target. But yeah, this Ward, really nice. The 3 strength, really nice, and questing for 2, the name of the game. So that's basically it. Super aggro, but with a ton of synergy here to actually be able to control the matchup a little bit more, and some great draw acceleration to find pieces that we need. And again, the fact that we're throwing stuff so much into the discard is a good thing for certain powerhouse cards in this deck. So this is super, super good. Beating SteelSong in the final, a humongous congratulations to Joel. And going on to top 8, our other Amber Emerald deck, we have Dom in top 8. I know Cal will be very pleased to see this. This is very much his pet deck, leaning a lot more into the discard, but of course with that control the board card, which is Under the Sea. So we have our Diablo line. The 1 cost lets you look at your opponent's hand, and the 3 cost is an uninkable 2/2 quest for 1. You shift him on top of a Diablo by discarding an action. You do not pay cost unless you're just playing the Diablo and you're not shifting him. Evasive, and during your opponent's turn, each time they draw a card while he's exerted, you may draw a card. Lots of cards, lots of decks like to draw cards. If they don't have the answer to this Diablo, he's absolutely going to run away with the game and be a fantastic draw engine for you. Ursa's, of course, the snipe songs. We still don't want to see them playing a whole new world. Be prepared, things like that. 4 Ariel to help us find our songs, and as a singer 5, she can sing all of them and contributes 5 of the cost that you need to be able to sing Under the Sea. 4 Prince John, whenever our opponent discards, we're going to draw a card. We've got 4 copies of Muses, 2 for Ward, and whenever you play a song, you bounce a character of 2 strength or less. Already a lot of characters of 2 strength or less in the game, and plus you might want to bounce your own characters, like the Ariel or the Tramp, to reuse these come into play abilities. And we have a couple of cards that can lower the strength of opposing characters to get more characters into this range. One of those being Kida. We've got 4 copies here, 5 cost Ingable 3, 5 quest for 2. She has a shift 3, but that is not relevant in this deck. No baby Kida and no morph. And when you play this character, all characters get -3 strength until the start of your next turn. So this doesn't target, gets around things like Ward, and a -3 is going to put a lot of characters into the range they need to be for things like Muses or Under the Sea. Alternatively, it could just give you a safe questing turn, and she's not badly statted and questing for 2. Cricky here, we already looked at in the last deck list to give us nice, surprising, challenging turns, and again, Cricky quest for 3. The Tramp also making an appearance in here to draw cards depending on how wide your board is, which can go wide quite a lot, especially with these warded characters like Prince John and the Muses, who are likely not turning sideways. So good odds we're going to be able to draw a few cards and help filter through to the pieces that we need. 4 You Have Forgotten Me, make our opponent discard 2 cards, absolute filth. 1 copy of Be Our Guest, look at the top 4 cards of your deck and choose a character to go into your hand. You can justify a lot of songs in this deck anyway, because of course it gives Ariel better odds to hit. You want songs to partner up with the Muses to bounce characters, so songs that you don't always see can justify themselves a little bit more, but this is a perfectly fine song, cheap, inkable, and finding a Diablo or a Cricky or whatever it is at the right time can be really good. 4 copies of Painting the Roses red, you draw a card, and up to 2 chosen characters get -1 strength this turn, so we're going to get more characters into the range of Muses and Under the Sea. 3 Bare Necessities to look at our opponent's hand, take away a non-character card, lots of very powerful non-character cards in the game, so I imagine this put in some work. And then our discard stuff, 4 Sudden Chill, of course going to, like, our opponent is always discarding, but if we've got John on the board, we are also drawing cards. 2 copies of You're Welcome to shuffle a character, item, or location into their player's deck, and that player draws 2 cards. You can use this on one of your own characters if you feel like you just need more cards. Doing it to your opponent doesn't always feel great because we don't like them drawing cards, but if there's a character there that really just has to go, then it just has to go. And hey, sometimes they might have an empty hand, and then we play the You're Welcome, they draw 2 cards, and then we play You Have Forgotten Me or something, so we can get away with this. 4 copies of We Don't Talk About Bruno for some removal for a character on board, and if they've got no cards in hand, then they have to discard that card that you just bounced. And if they do have other cards in their hand, maybe you hit something better. Regardless, you get a bit of tempo on the board. 2 copies of Hidden Cove, 1 cost location, 1 to move there, 6 willpower, no law, but any character there gets +1 strength and willpower, which of course can help with challenges, but more importantly, it's going to keep things like Diablo, Ariel out of the range of things like Brawl, or any other cards that care about strength. And of course, 3 copies of that Under the Sea. 8 cost uninkable, sing together 8, so you can exert multiple characters whose cost totals 8 or more to sing this song. Put all opposing characters of 2 strength or less on the bottom of their player's deck in any order. As I've already mentioned, things like Roses and Kida help to get more characters into this range, but there's already a decent amount of characters that are going to go Under the Sea, giving you a potential one-sided board wipe. A powerful deck that has seen reasonable success over the course of the metagame. Not something I think anyone has ever called tier 1. I think the most exciting thing is that this deck finally has a new card in the form of Tramp. It's looked relatively the same for a long while, but great to see it doing well, going all the way to top 8. Congratulations to Dom. Going back to second place, we have the first of 4 Amber Steel deck lists. This one, a 2-line special, a fairly traditional SteelSong variant. We are playing 4 copies of A Whole New World, but both players discard their hand and draw 7 cards. 4 copies of Zeus to do 5 damage to a character or location. Spot removal is good. 4 strength for a Raging Fire. You do 1 damage to an opposing character for each character you have on board. This is very much a deck that goes wide, so you can expect this to hit nice high numbers. And Storm Rage on, which is uninkable, 2 damage, and you draw a card, and is one of the best cards in the early game, especially combined with Cinderella, for taking out those low willpower early characters. Our character lineup, as I just said, 4 copies of the Cinderella Ballroom Sensation. She can sing the Storms and the Strength Rage on, Strength for a Raging Fire, sorry, which are both incredibly powerful cards to help to control the board, and having a 1-cost 3-cost character that can freely sing these is fantastic. 4 copies of Daisy. Of course, if we are giving our opponent cards, then that doesn't feel great, but if we're about to sing a whole new world, we don't care. Take all the cards you want, my friend. We are playing a 4-4 Robin Hood line, which at one point in time was very much standard. Not so much these days. A lot of players opting to play the Ariel and then something like the Gaston Baritone Bully, who has that Singer 5 and is a 3-3. Or maybe even the new Singer 5 Ariel, but I do think this Robin Hood is good, especially with the perception of there being a lot less Medusa in format, which of course is one of the things that Robin Hood really hates to see. But it does give you a bit more assurity on being able to sing your whole new world and sing it sooner, because of course you can put down Ariel on turn 3, but there are certain cards that are just going to remove her immediately, whether it's a Brawl or an opposing Strength or Zeus or something like that. As long as your one-cost Robin Hood survives, then turn 3, shift, immediately sing Whole New World. Now, don't get me wrong, that's not always the best way to do it. Sometimes you have to, and sometimes it will be preferable. But really, the idea with this deck is you want to establish your Singer, and then you want to go into a fresh turn where you've got at least 4 ink, maybe more, and you're able to sing a Whole New World, get a fresh hand of 7, and then you've still got ink to be able to play to the board. But if we are forced to just shift on 3 Robin, sing a Whole New World, it's not the worst thing in the world. We've still got a Robin Hood on board and potentially a 1 and a 2 drop. We've just refilled our hand, so it's never bad. We're seeing 4 copies of the Troubadour, who's a 2-cost inkable 1-3, quest for 1, resist 1, and sing a 4. Very reminiscent of the Ursula Vanessa, who's very similar but without resist, and a 1-4 stat line. I think in a lot of cases Ursula would be better purely because it sets up better Rapunzel traps, but SteelSong decks these days are opting to play the lovely Miss Bianca, who's a 6-cost inkable 5-5 quest for 1, and if you have an ally in play, you pay 2 less to play this character. Troubadour is indeed an ally, so allowing for a turn 4 drop of Miss Bianca, and Miss Bianca is far harder to get off the board with that big bulky 5 stat line, not to mention once she's done singing, 5-5 is a great stat line for you yourself to go on the offensive, so in this context, the Troubadour makes all the sense. Force Me, of course, fantastic stats. Ariel to find these songs and sing them. 3 copies of Lawrence, 3-cost inkable, 0-4 quest for 2. When he's got no damage, he gets +4 strength. So traditionally he is a 4-4 beat stick questing for 2, which is phenomenal on a 3-cost character. Plus he has that very important 4 willpower to help us set up Rapunzel traps. If we have a Lawrence on board, our opponent cannot turn sideways with a character with 3 strength because they are very much going to be punished for that. 4 copies of Pete to shut down those actions. No beat prep for you, no songs if I'm in a mirror, things like that. Pete continues to be one of the most important pieces of the game. And we're seeing 2 copies of Ariel, Sonic Warrior, who is growing in popularity. 6-cost inkable 3-8 quest for 2, shift 4, and whenever you play a song, you may pay 2 ink to deal 3 damage to chosen character, which is not bad at all. So if you've got the ink to spare, suddenly if you've got an Ariel on board when you sing a Storm, you can do 5 damage. Strength, obviously, depending on the amount of characters you've got on board. Along came Zeus, you could be doing 8 damage to one thing, or 5 to one, and then 3 damage to another. And again, with there being less Medusa in format, it's absolutely Ariel Sonic Warrior's time. She was always a very good card. It's just Medusa really had her thumb on this Ariel. Because outside of that, she is super hard to remove. 3 strength isn't great, but the big bulky 8 willpower should let us sit there for a little while. And again, we're playing her for this fantastic ability. She quests for 2. I love it. I love it very much. So yeah, a really streamlined classical SteelSong list going all the way to 2nd place. No surprise to anyone. We knew this deck was looking pretty good and benefiting from the recent bans. So a huge congratulations to them. Going to top 4, we have Harold, also on classic SteelSong. A lot of similarities to what we just looked at. I'm seeing less Daisy Ducks. We are seeing that Robin Hood shift line. We are seeing that Ariel shift line. But we've taken out a couple of Daisy Ducks and we've replaced them with 2 copies of Prince Naveen, who's a 4-cost uninkable 3-3 quest for 2. Sing a 6, and when you play this character, you may play a song with cost 6 or less for free. So having a Sing a 6 on board is good anyway. We can sing all of our songs, any quest for 2. But being able to panic play a whole new world, perhaps your Robin Hood was removed, perhaps your Ariel was instantly removed, and we just need to be able to get this whole new world off on turn 4 potentially, or it just doesn't feel good enough to just hard play whole new world with nothing on board. At least now with Naveen, you are sticking something onto the board, so I think Naveen can be really good. And even if he's not panic singing whole new world, he's singing strength, he's singing Zeus, and then it's sticking a 2 quest for 2 character on the board, so that's great. We're seeing only 2 copies of Miss Bianca in here, and we're seeing 1 copy of the world's greatest criminal mind, 3-cost Inkable Song, banish chosen character with 5 strength or more. So things like Maui Shark would have been Tamatoa in the past, but we're not really seeing a lot of 8-cost Tamatoa. Still see the 6-cost, but he only has 4 strength. Of course, regular Maui opposing Miss Bianca's. I think Shark is the main reason to run whole World's Greatest Criminal Greatest Criminal Mind. What's wrong with me? At the moment, we do have Zeus's, of course, which is another way to remove it. I like to see World's Greatest when we're running a Queen Shift line, because obviously her ability synergizes really well with this. But I think just a 1 count is perfectly fine. Again, it's a song. It does have cases where it's going to be really important to have. And again, we can find it with Ariel. We can trigger Sonic Warrior's second ability, and it's inkable. So you'll love to see it. Congratulations to Harold. Next up in top 8, another SteelSong list, we have Regan Bogan Spieler. I'm sorry, my friend. But congratulations on your run. SteelSong doing really well in this event. A lot of the same sort of cards that we just talked about. Again, seeing that Robin Hood and Ariel shift line. I do wonder if these players are friends, teammates, or if this is just a happy accident, a coincidence. A lot of people coming to similar conclusions. We're seeing the Prince Naveen's in here. 2 copies of World's Greatest Criminal Mind. Only 3 Lawrence. The main difference card here is 2 copies of Grab Your Swords. 5-cost uninkable. Song, deal 2 damage to each opposing character, which I imagine caught a lot of people off guard. That in itself can be the main value from something, just the fact that I don't think a lot of people would have played around this Grab Your Swords, because not many decks are running them, so I imagine that in itself was very impactful, but the rest of the deck, pretty cookie cutter, really strong. The 3rd one we've looked at so far, congratulations to them. And our final SteelSong list in top 8, another classical variant with a lot of the same sort of cards. We're seeing the Robin Hood shift line, but not that Ariel shift line this time. Of course, seeing the 3-cost. Only 1 copy of World's Greatest Criminal Mind. But the spice here is 1 copy of the Bayou. 1-cost inkable, 1 to move there, 3 willpower, but 1 passive lore gain. And whenever a character quests while here, you may draw a card and discard a card. So that ability to draw a discard is pretty good. It's a filter effect, right? We're getting rid of those uninkables. We're finding the whole new world, the removal song, the shift line, the aerial, whatever it is, whatever it is that we want. But just a 1-cost location with a passive lore gain, it's not bad at all. We saw fairy ships finding some success in the Amethyst decks as of late, and they're great to put down if your opponent doesn't have a board, post B prep, something like that. And the same is absolutely true here. If your opponent does have an empty board, then this could potentially tick away a few lore, and then they start putting stuff back on the board, and maybe you've got the songs to keep them off of it. Only 2 copies, it's inkable. I like it as a bit of spice, and it led this player all the way to top 8, so congratulations to them. Going back to top 4, the first of 2 Ruby Amethyst decks. We are so back. But both of these decks being the newer iteration, the Shark Evasive package. So we'll go through the more traditional stuff. Our 1-drops we're running 10, 4 Bog, 2 Diablo, 4 Broom. I like a high count of 1-drops. Quite often on turn 2, you want to play 2 1-drops anyway. We're also running 3 copies of the Library, which of course work really well with this. Personally, I would prioritize the Diablo. I think this is the best 1-drop by a mile, especially in conjunction with Crab, and we've got Moana here, who we'll get to in a moment. I generally just think Diablo is the best one. I would probably go down to either like 3-3 Bog Broom, or even 2 Bog and 4 Broom. I like, because like with Diablo, often it's nice on turn 3 to play Crab and hopefully challenge, make a trade, and then draw a card. There are, of course, a couple of characters where the 3 strength isn't enough. Case in point, the Lawrence in the SteelSong decks, in which case you're going to want at least 1 strength on your character as it is. Now, Magic Broom would still be banished by challenging into a Lawrence with a Crab boost, as would Chernadog's followers. But if it's a Daisy that you're boosting with the Crab to take out, then Broom survives and Bog doesn't. And yeah, often the Broom is then just sat there exerted. You might not have, if you did it on turn 3 and played Crab, you don't have the ink to play another character and then pop the Broom. You could do that in later on in the game, but even if it just sits there vulnerable, and the opponent has to challenge into it and gets a favorable trade, at least it was a challenge they made, right? That's 1 less lore for them, or making them turn sideways. So I would run this as 4 Diablo and then 3-3, or I put the emphasis on Broom, but I think this is fine as a player preference. We're seeing 4 copies of Lumiere growing in popularity. You'll love to see it. 2-cost inkable 2-2. All your characters get +1 strength. Of course, that's going to help for challenges, but also keeping characters out of the range of certain cards that care about how much strength you have. Case in point, keeping the Peter Pans and the Genies out of brawl range is very annoying. Bounce package, we've got 4 copies of the Fox, 3 copies of Crab. We're not playing any goats, we're not playing any snakes, not playing any rabbits, just utilising these as fantastic ways to control the board. Fox obviously with the rush and 4 strength, and Crab working with so many other things in this deck to take out opposing characters. Instead of rabbits, we are playing 4 copies of Genie, who has evasive, quest for 2, and on play you draw a card. Not as good of a draw engine as the rabbit, but questing for 2 puts on more pressure, and of course having evasive means that we are going to be much better into evasive decks, whether it's Diablos or the Mirror, because we can boost this Genie with a Crab to take out the bigger evasive problems. With running 4 copies of Peter Pan Shadowfinder, who really makes this whole thing come together. 3 cost Inkable, 2, 3 quests for 1, rush, evasive, and your other characters with evasive gain rush. So this Genie getting rush. We're also running 2 copies of Moana, 4 cost Inkable, 4, 3 quests for 1, evasive, and when she challenges another character of yours gets +3 strength this turn. Obviously having an evasive character that hits for 4, potentially 5 if you've got the Lumiere on board, to take out opposing Genies, Diablos, rushing basically if you've got the Peter Pan on board is really good. And then if you can give +3 strength to something like a Diablo or whatever else it is, to have another like really nice challenging turn, then this Moana can absolutely put in a lot of work. And the main evasive card that's going to be backed up by this Peter Pan package is, of course, the Maui Half Shark. 6 cost Inkable, 7, 5 quests for 1, evasive. Whenever he challenges another character, you can return an action card from your discard to your hand. And whenever you play an action, gain 1 lore. I want to make one comment now, slightly changing the subject, but for an important reason. But I'm not going to give any context. If you are playing in a large event, like a strict event, like locals, sometimes you might make, you know, small mistakes and, oh, sorry, not meant to do that, and your opponent go, no worries, man, start again. But if it's like a big event where you're likely to like really be held by the book and not be sharked, please remember that when you challenge with Maui, if you put damage counters on him before you take an action back from your discard, you have technically missed the timing. I hate seeing it happen, and you would never do it in locals or anything like that, but technically it is how it works. So please, when you challenge with Maui Shark, get back your action, then put your damage counters on. Or even if he's being banished, if you put him in the discard, then that would also symbolize that you have missed the timing. I don't want to see this happen to anybody, so please bear that in mind. But anyway, going back to the subject at hand, this is a fantastic card. It can freeze opposing boards, getting back actions, and of course wayfinding whenever you play an action, gain 1 lore. We have a plethora of good actions here to potentially get that burst. So this Maui Shark very much finding a warm home in Ruby Amethyst lists in conjunction with the Peter Pan, meaning we can just rush him out. The only problem with Maui in the past was he was too slow. In red-blue decks they were playing Vitalosphere just to be able to have that rush turn, but you can do it now with Peter Pan Shadowfinder, which is very efficient. We're also playing 4 copies of Elsa with rush, evasive, and to exert an opposing character on play. Just good in general, having evasive and the 2 strength. If we are boosted with a Crab, then we're taking out other opposing evasive characters, and she is exerting characters down for your Maui Half Shark to be able to get his value. So Elsa really important here, and we're seeing 1 copy of Lady Tremaine just for a bit more removal if your opponent only has 1 character on the board, which hopefully with this sort of deck we should be able to ensure. We've got good characters to be able to control the board through challenges. We've got Dragon's Fires, we've got B-Preps, we've got Brawls. So good odds to be able to like dwindle down our opponent's resources and make it so that they can maybe only play 1 character. Or if you've got enough ink, maybe you can afford to Brawl then Tremaine, or Dragonfire then Tremaine, or whatever it is. I very much like the one of. And then our action package, just 3 copies of Brawl, which I think is fine. I would definitely run 4, partly because, again, actions are good with the Maui Half Shark anyway, but something's still just got to go right. Aerials, if you're in the mirror, like, you want to get rid of these Peter Pans. Against any Amethyst deck that are running these Genies, you want to get rid of them as well. Don't get me wrong, we've got other ways of... We've got other removal, so it is probably justifiable, and I can't see anything else in this deck that I would particularly want to cut to add the 4th Brawl. Maybe 1 Fox or even 1 Moana, but I do think it's fine. 2 copies of Finders Keepers obviously is super good here, where we don't have rabbits to have, like, which is the best draw engine that Amethyst has, but we're not playing that. We have other good ways of drawing. Genies, our 1-drops, we're running Friends, we've got Library, so there is draw power here. But this 3 card, this +3 Sorry, camera ran out of battery, which I'm so glad I caught before I did too much more. As I was saying, these Finders Keepers, the +3 that it gives you, kind of makes up for the lack of that higher power draw engine that Rabbit provides. Not to mention that it's an action that's going to work really well with Maui. One copy of Dragonfire is always great to see. It's reminiscent of the first chapter days of Ruby Amethyst, and this is absolutely the time for it with the Maui Shark again, an action that we can get back, and that's just gaining us lore. And this is targeted removal, meaning we don't have to worry about the negative side of Tremaine, which is if your opponent has more than one character, they're always going to pick the less important one. But Dragonfire, take your pick, mate. 4 friends, 3 copies of a Pirate's Life for a +2/-2 on lore. Again, a fantastic action to work with Maui. Even if you're not running Maui, you can kind of justify these Pirate's Lives a bit. Again, for the control decks, it just helps you buy you that 1 or 2 extra turns that you need to take control of the game, or just not let your opponent close out and get to 20. But with Maui Shark, our lore gain is all the more, and we can get them back. 4 copies, of course, of Be Prepared for that board wipe, and 3 library, as I mentioned, as our location of choice. This version of Ruby Amethyst has been performing really, really well since the bans. I don't see any reason for that to change. We're about to look at another one, and a shout out to Kendall Burdett, who made top 32 of this event, also on a Ruby Amethyst Shark Evasive build, similar to this, not exactly the same. I don't think he was playing the Moanas. But the point being, this deck has proved itself. Expect to see it a lot over set championships, so congratulations to them. And our other Ruby Amethyst list, in top 8, we have Swordinator. 61 cards, no one tell Podkana, but once again, the Shark Evasive build, but leaning slightly more into that classical bounce package. We are running 3 Snake, 3 Fox, 2 Crab, and 4 Merlin Rabbit, and 3 copies of Goat in here. So lowering the counts of these cards, but still very much showing a presence. The same 1-drops as the last list that we looked at. 4 copies of Peter Pan, of course, you have to run if you're going to run these Maui Sharks, in my opinion. But another character that really complements this Peter Pan is the Iago Giant Spectral Parrot, who's a 4-costing 4/6, quest for 1, evasive, and vanish. That vanish keyword, meaning if he's targeted by any action, then he is instantly removed. So a storm will get rid of him, a strength for any strength. Some people taking things like improvise in Emerald, which is an action which gives character +1 and you draw a card. So there are some nice cheeky ways to get rid of this Iago, but if you had Peter Pan on the board and you played him and rushed him and he got a good challenge off, then he has already served his duty, and this 4/6 stat line is humongous. I do think 4 is probably too many. It's a good card, but from what I've seen, it ends up being a bit dead a lot of the time. We're still seeing 2 Mauis here. I think important to have. If you don't have the Peter Pan Shadow, then you do not have Rush. Well, you have it on Elsa, but not a big beat stick that we can depend to remove a body or go into a location or something. 2 copies of Tremaine here, and then a very similar action package to go with these 4 Shark, 3 Brawl, just 1 copy of Finders Keepers, 4 Friends, just 2 Pirate's Life, and 4 Be Prep. I would like to see a Dragonfire in here, but if you've got Tremaine, then that's another removal card, obviously slightly less reliable, but Tremaine is great because obviously you're sticking a character on board the quest for 2. So even if not Dragonfire, like maybe a second Finders Keepers, but that feels far less important when you're running a Rabbit engine. So maybe just the 4th Brawl that I can see going down to 3 Iago for the 4th Brawl. To be honest, I'd like to see just 2 Iago for the 4th Brawl and at least a 3rd Elsa. I think Elsa is good in a lot of matchups anyway, but with Shark, this is how you're exerting characters down to give you those challenges. But besides that, deck looks really good. I do think the version of Shark Red Purple with Rabbits is probably better. You have a slightly worse matchup into the Emerald Evasives, but it's still not that bad. You're just still running the Peter Pans and the Iagos to get rid of those early Diablos, but deck looks really good. Congratulations to them. And now into top 16. As I said, I only have 2 of these lists, unfortunately, but we're going to take a look at them. First off, in top 16, we have Boris on some Amethyst Steel. A good old reliable Amethyst bounce package, 4 Rabbit, 4 Goat, 3 Crab. I think this should be 4 a lot of the time, to be honest. I think Crab is so good right now. I know I say that all the time, but it really is. 4 Fox and 3 Snake. Our 1-drops are 2 Bog, 4 Diablo, let's go, and 4 copies of Mickey Mouse Fast Food Defender. No shift option to go on top of this, but this 1/2 stat line with resist 1 is pretty good. Probably going to cheat you out some good early lore. 2 copies of Calhoun to check the board, 4 Smeeth and 2 Lawrence for stats. Let's lay the stat down. 4 copies of Pete to turn off those actions. Bit of Spice, 1 copy of Madam Mim Elephant. 4 cost Inglewood 3/7 quest for 1. You have to return a character to your hand when you play her, or she's vanished. And at the start of your turn, you can move up to 2 damage counters from this character to chosen opposing character. With that 7 willpower, good odds that we can get some damage on the elephant and survive, and then start picking off small things. Or maybe just that 1 or 2 damage is the only extra bit you need, along with one of your songs to finish something off. I like it. Nice bit of spice. And another bit of spice, we're seeing 1 copy of Experienced Enforcer Gantu. 2 4 quests for 1. When you play this character, characters can't exert to sing songs until the start of your next turn. SteelSong's going to hate you. To a degree, the mirror might even hate you. And don't get any ideas. That's not a good voice for him. I've not seen Stitch in a while. Each player pays 2 ink more to play actions or items. This is super annoying if you can't get this Gantu off the board. The 2 strength is unfortunate, falls to Brawl, falls to Zeus, things like that. But they have to pay 2 extra to do those, unless it's Zeus and they're singing it. It doesn't add any cost to songs if you are exerting to sing them, because that is how you pay the cost of a song. But for Brawls, if they want to play a Porpsicle and pay 3 for it, great. A lot of really nice situations where this Gantu is going to be really annoying for the opponent. 4 Elsa, 4 Friends, 4 Strength, 4 Zeus, 2 Storm. I think is okay. Storm isn't typically a card that really goes in this deck. It doesn't have a dedicated singer. There are, of course, 3 cost characters that can sing this later on into the game. Generally, Storm is seen in decks with a singer to take advantage of it, whether it's the Cinderella Ballroom Sensation or a Belle. But I think a 2 count is fine, and clearly putting a lot of work for Boris, leading him all the way to top 16 in this very large event. So congratulations to them. And our final list for the top 16, at least from those that are available, we have DKP playing his absolute bread and butter DK Shark 2-line special. At least a couple of changes from the last time DKP was playing this list. We're no longer seeing the greatest ink card that was ever made, All Is Found. Just super streamlined. We've got those 4 mana, which we're hoping are going to do a lot of the heavy lifting. We have this Maui Shark engine with a plethora of cheap actions: 4 Develop Your Brain and 4 Vision to help us filter and find pieces, Sail to draw and give us extra ramp for the turn, couple of Brawls to get rid of some of those problem characters, 4 How Far I'll Go to help us ramp and find key pieces, 3 copies of Let It Go is the most I've ever seen DKP run, so putting some more emphasis on targeted removal is our boy DKP. 4 Pirates, 4 Beat Prep, 4 Porpsicle, just for consistency, and we are running 4 copies of the Happy as a Clam, who when you play him, you can return 2 items from your discard to your hand. If you just get back a couple of Porpsicles to assure yourself a couple of extra draws, that in itself is pretty good. Not a lot to say here. We've assessed this deck list to the ends of the earth, I feel. DKP is still finding a lot of success with it. I don't know if that says more about the player or the deck. The deck is, of course, still very strong, but very slow. You really need to know your matchups and your lines when you're against those more aggressive decks. I do believe that DKP lost to the first place list, the Chernadog, Emerald Amber aggro deck. Of course, this deck does have answers to that. We ramp quickly, we have B preps, if we can get a Sisu down, that's really great. So a lot of the tools are here, but I do think it's a very high skill level needed to appropriately pilot this deck. And no surprise to see DKP in Top Cut once again, so congratulations to him. And that is it for the Top Cut deck lists. Unfortunate that I don't have the top 16, but nonetheless, a huge congratulations to all those players and everyone that made Day 2 in general. But there's going to be some footage coming up now, and yeah, just have a bit of a chat. I don't want to spend too long, and I still want to go over my list, but yeah, it was so great to get to go to this event. If you've been a watcher of the channel for a while, you know that I don't really get to go to that many events. Don't get me wrong, I'm very privileged that I've gotten to go to every single of the biggest events in Europe, all of the DLCs and the European Championships. So I cannot and would not complain at all. But outside of work, I don't get many opportunities to go away. My mum needs me a lot of the time. If you're newer to the channel, I'm a full-time carer for my mum, is what I do with the vast majority of my time. And anytime I go away, it requires a lot of moving pieces. So there have been opportunities in the past, but just haven't been able to make it work. But this one I was desperate to do so. I have friends in Germany as well that I've met over the course of my time in Lorcana. So I went down a couple of days early. I went down on the Thursday, because if I'm going to pay for the trip and again organise all these moving pieces for my mum, etc., then I absolutely want to make the most of it. So I went down on the Thursday, had a great couple of days just chilling with friends and enjoying Germany. And then yeah, the main event itself, and it was so great, and it was so great to get to play, and it was my biggest event that I've taken part in since Lorcana begun. I've been able to do maybe 2 or 3 of every set championship, and then I was able to do the Axion event in the UK a couple of months ago, which was the largest event I had done up until that point. It was 7 rounds, and I was 4-0, and then went 4-3 and missed top cut, which stung, but one of those things. Still had a great time. But I was so keen to do well at this event, and that didn't mean that I had to make top cut. Don't get me wrong, I really wanted it. But I just needed to prove a few things to myself and just get to experience like the DLC format. And I'm really happy with how I did. Again, I'll get to the list in a moment. But yeah, I went 3 wins, 0 losses, 6 draws. For the last 4 rounds, I was 3-0-2. And then I just needed 1 match win from my last 4 rounds. And unfortunately, I drew every single one, which was really painful. I came 71st. I am so proud of how I did. It really restored is maybe the wrong word. It gave me a lot of confidence again as a player. Not too much, don't worry, I'm not about to get carried away, but it was just very reassuring to not only do well, but feel like I played well. There weren't many matches where I came out of it feeling like I absolutely threw. I definitely made mistakes over the course of the day. But by and large, I was really happy with how I played. Every single one of my opponents was so lovely, so nice. And I did a thing where every person I faced, I got to sign one of my cards. If they were running any Ruby or Amethyst, then I got them to sign a card from my deck. But I also had a couple of other decks with me, so I was getting the SteelSong players to see it sign Daisies and Cinderellas and things like that. And all those cards are just going to go into a nice little binder and like just a nice little memento for me from that. So yeah, to everyone that I faced, thank you for being incredible opponents. I was also very lucky to get the first feature match of the day and my first one ever, at least from the player's perspective, which was really awesome. And again, a huge shout out to my opponent. I was not happy to see he was running Amethyst Emerald discard because I did not prep for that in this. I was happy to take the split in that matchup, basically. I didn't really build my deck to counter Emerald. I was just kind of hoping to dodge as many as I could and hope for a split at best, which is what happened in all of my matches against Emerald. I had 1 match against Emerald Amethyst where I split, and then 2 against Emerald Steel where I split. I think it was 2, it might have been just 1, but split the whole day. But yeah, the feature match was super interesting because he was on the play game 1 and we both won on the draw, basically. But it was a great match, a really nice guy. So a shout out to you, my friend. There's a picture I took, which is probably coming up on the board right now. Yeah, a lovely guy, and all my opponents lovely. And everyone that I met, like, it's always a privilege when I'm at a DLC that I get to meet a lot of people, and I get a lot of people coming up to say hello, ask for something signed, ask for a photo. But I'm also tucked away for a lot of these events. I go to every effort to walk among the crowd as much as I can, not only because I want to meet people, but I want to... I don't see myself as anything other than a part of the community. I am just super lucky that I get the privilege to cast and do these amazing things. But I just want to be part of the community. I want to make more friends. I want to see the friends that I've made, and I want to absorb it as much as possible. So I always make the effort of walking around the venue. But obviously this time, because I was completely on the players' floor and never backstage, there are a lot more opportunities to meet people, and I was blown away by the amount of people that either just wanted to say hello, shake my hand, and just say hi, just wanted to say big fan of your content, or wanted to have a chat, which I was always happy to do, by the way. Like, some people would come up to me in a very, I don't want to take up too much of your time sort of way. It would be very much like, I don't want to disturb you. Is it alright, just get a quick picture or a quick whatever? And I always made the effort to say, of course, hello, how are you? What's your name? Have you had a good weekend? Always, because I value those interactions. So to everyone that came up and spoke to me, thank you so much. It was such an honor. Shout out to this guy. Alright, so lovely gentleman here has asked me to sign a card. Always such an honor when people ask that. But I gotta say, guys, I'm a little bit nervous to sign this, so I need my man on camera. Are you sure?
I am sure.
All right, okay. I'll take a picture and I'll add it to the end. In particular, who got me to sign a card that made me feel a little nervous. But again, a huge honor. I said in this video that I would show a picture, but I actually forgot to. But I didn't. I did indeed sign this. Here's a lovely moment of me and Moyen doing the puzzle that was in the room, which was really cool. It was like loads of small individual puzzles to make up this huge one that people could do over the weekend. And me and Moyen put a couple of pieces together. And then when it was all finished, the event organizers got me and a bunch of the content creators to sign it, with the understanding that it's either going to go up in the wall of an office, or it might be given away as a prize, not like a DLC, like a giveaway, something like that. I'm not certain on that. I'm not sure what's actually going to happen to it. I was just told a couple of the ideas. A shout out to SLTC, an incredible testing group that I've had the pleasure to sit under the learning tree of for a while, and that I do credit an awful lot towards my improvement as a player and helping me to achieve what I achieved on this day. On that note, I want to give a shout out to a bunch of people, because I'm a product of the community, like what I've achieved on this day. Every content creator that I've ever watched, everyone that I've ever had onto the channel to discuss the game. You're talking about the likes of Lorcana Decklists, Artabax, Zan Zayed, the legendary Brennan DeCandio, the GOAT, Zach Bivens, and then members of SLTC, Attack for Two, Bummy Jr., Boomy, Harlan Sweet, the list goes, Fumbles. I hate starting listing names, because then when I forget people, I feel bad. But to everyone in SLTC, everyone that I've ever had on the channel, anyone whose content I've consumed, and just anyone that I've ever watched play the game, whether it was because I was at home or I was in the booth watching you, I have learned from all of you. So I want to say I'm super, super grateful for that. But yeah, an amazing time. Let's look at the list. As I said, I went 3-0-6, taking no match losses all day, coming 71st, missing top cut by 1 point. Super heartbreaking, but as I said, I'm so proud of how I did, and I'm so happy with the list. So a lot of this stuff is very traditional, and we've talked about already in the course of this video, but let's of course address the standout things. 3 Queen of Hearts was absolutely amazing over the course of the day. It doesn't hurt that I faced 3 SteelSongs, and 2 of them, my 2-0s are against SteelSong and Ruby Sapphire. And this Queen of Hearts was pivotal in those SteelSong matchups. The 4 where you just need something to survive. You force them to have the absolute nut start as opposed to just a good start. A good start without Queen of Hearts, because this could easily be something like a Kuzco or a Flynn Rider, but they only need a good start, right? They need to be able to storm your 1-drop, and then they need to be able to get 2 or 3 strength, courtesy of something like courtesy of a strength or a Raging Fire, something like that. This Queen of Hearts just makes them need that slight bit more to take away all your characters, because you just need something to survive until the turn 3 crab. Now, of course, sometimes you might just want to go double 1-drop on 2, which can be perfectly fine to help something survive, although even that's not assured. If you're on the draw and they've been able to go, if they go Cindy, you go play nothing. They go Troubadour or Ursula, and you play 2 1-drops. They can still then just have double Storm, or Storm and Strength, or Storm and Zeus. Queen of Hearts forces one of those cards to be Zeus, which is still something that can upset us, but it just makes them need that one more better card to be able to offset your game plan. And this Queen of Hearts put in so much work over the weekend, of course boosting it with Crab, so it's challenging for 4, taking out a lot, and then the 4 willpower, hopefully meaning it survives, and then its ability kicks in, meaning it's a 4 strength character without the need for a Crab boost, which is a good number. It's a very good number against SteelSong, because 3 strength is really dangerous to turn sideways against SteelSong because of the Rapunzel traps. So yes, Queen of Hearts, super, super well performed. Kuzco, I think it is reasonable to include in this slot, but if you're expecting to see some SteelSong, which I saw a lot, and we've just looked at the top 8, and that was the majority of the lists, if you think there's a good chance that your locals is going to be relatively SteelSong heavy, then this Queen of Hearts is going to be brilliant. And even into the Amethyst Steel decks, you're going to be able to get some 2-for-1s out of this Queen of Hearts. So Kuzco is better for consistency. Flynn Rider is better at the high roll, although that high roll only really exists against the like red-blue and Blurple to a degree, which I'm surprised to have not seen Blurple make the top 8. It might have been in the top 16 that wasn't available, but that was definitely represented. So Flynn can have some high rolls, but I mean, against Red-Blue, that's already one of kind of our better matchups, and especially the way I built this list. So I don't feel the need as well for that high roll of Flynn. I would rather have a card that I feel so good about having against things like SteelSong, which traditionally is a 50-50 matchup. I don't think having the Queen makes it any more than a 50-50 matchup, but it makes it feel a lot better. And again, it demands them to have that much more of a high roll in the early game to take away the relevance of this Queen. And of course, 2 copies of Maleficent Monstrous Dragon, who was my absolute MVP throughout the run. I've just realized I forgot to turn on one of my lights, so that's probably messed up the lighting a bit for some of this video. I apologize. Yeah, Monstrous Dragon super overperformed. I want to give the credit to Tim from Ravensburger, who I've gotten to know, who's on the game, is the game development manager, and someone that I've gotten to know very well over the course of the DLCs. I hope it's not a huge shock to anyone that when you are attending all the DLCs as staff, you get to know the other staff and the people, whether it's Ravensburger or Fanfinity. These are the people that you're spending a lot of time with. And I also hope this isn't hard to believe, but generally people that work for trading card game companies and are in those sort of positions are generally pretty interesting people, and you tend to have a lot in common, a lot of similarities, things that you're interested in, etc. Words are hard. So I hope that doesn't come as a huge surprise to know that I get on well with some of the Ravensburger team, and Tim in particular is known for making 100 decks, most of them slightly like meta decks, but with some fun stuff in there. There was a stream not too long ago where Spessy played against Tim, and he was running the, I can't remember the name of the card off the top of my head. Is it Kristoff? The Amber Kristoff? It's coming up on the screen right now. But yeah, Tim likes to make half a meta deck and then add a load of fun. So he knows this game at the back of his hand, and we were just talking about Ruby Amethyst in its current position, and he was just casually saying that he felt like Maleficent is a good call at the moment for Ruby Amethyst into the red-blue decks and into the red-purple shark decks that are growing in popularity. Now, I don't think I ever played this card outside of my red-blue matchups, of which I had 3, 1 win, 2 draws, and this Maleficent was so important all of those games. Also, outside of the tournament, I had a friendly against Kendall Badette, who was playing the Shark version of RP. Again, this Maleficent Dragon, super good into that match. If you haven't seen that, it was the last video to go up on the channel. It will be linked down below. I don't think I ever played it against SteelSong or Amethyst Steel or the Emerald decks that I faced, but a 2 count is, I think, super okay. Obviously, like, if you've got 4, then that's 4 cards in your deck that are basically dead against a lot of your matchups, but I think 2 is perfectly reasonable. You can just ink them, and in those red-blue matches into red-blue, just into the shark decks is the point here, you always get to 9. It's always a grindy game, and this is so much more reliable than a Tremaine. Maleficent Dragon was so good. Do I think you should all put Maleficent into your Ruby Amethyst lists? Not necessarily. If you are expecting to see a lot of red-blue, or you're expecting to see a lot of red-purple shark, and even Blurple to a degree, I think Dragon is a good card, then I think I would absolutely consider running 1 or 2. If you're not expecting to see a lot of those sort of decks, or you are building your deck in a way where you're kind of happy to take the loss to the shark decks and you're hoping to beat the Diablo decks, the SteelSong decks, whatever it is, then I would not include this. But if you are expecting to see a lot of those more control-y decks, or you just want to improve your matchup into those decks, maybe you have a rival at your LGS who's always on control and you want to hedge the bets in your favor a little bit and you don't care about how you do overall, you just want to beat this one guy, may I introduce you to Maleficent Monstrous Dragon. I think this was such a good inclusion. Loved it. 1C Sue was good. I didn't see it as much as I'd like over the course of the day, but she did put in work, of course, great into SteelSong, etc. And with 2 Tremaine, 1 Medusa. I think Medusa is still really good at the moment, and I wanted this to be a 2-2, really, but I'm on 12 uninkables. You can go to 14, and it's fine. 13 is also fine, but at 12, my deck felt super consistent all day. It really did. So I only wanted to run 12, and I did opt to put the emphasis on Tremaine because I really wanted to beat the Shark decks, which I was expecting to see a lot of. Not to mention, I'd put in the Queen of Hearts that I think is very good into SteelSong, along with 12 1-drops, and along with 4 copies of Maui help a lot, and the Sisu. So I don't feel like I was compromising my matchups elsewhere by running the counts like this. Don't get me wrong, against SteelSong and Amethyst Steel, you would rather have a high count in Medusa, whether that's because you're running less Tremaine or you cut the dragon. Medusa's really good at the moment. A lot of people are dropping it, and a lot of people are taking advantage of it. If you are running Ruby Amethyst, maybe not the Shark version, but if you want to run stock, I would run at least one Medusa. I still think she's really good. Elsa is still fantastic, even though we're not running Shark. Good for good for Diablos, good for just exerting things down so that we can have good challenges. Boost her up with the crab, so you're taking out things like Shark. I think 3 is the number. 4 has always felt a little bit cloggy, but if you are expecting to see a lot of Emerald decks and a lot of red-purple evasive decks, then you may want to max this out to 4. Maui, I think, has to be 4. I mean, it could probably be 3, but like experienced red players, just think now how many games you've played in your life where you were thinking, I need Maui. I need Maui, I lose here. Or at least, if I get Maui here, I'm in a super strong position. I get 2 for 1. I get to answer this mana, whatever it is. And that's the other great thing about 4 Maui, 4 Crab against the mana decks. If you B-prep, or they B-prep, and then they feel safe chucking down a mana or 2, Maui Crab immediately get rid of one of them is super clutch. 12 1-drops. I think this is the only thing I would change. I think I could probably have gone down to 10. And I would consider doing that in the future. My set championship deck isn't going to look exactly like this. Again, I'm not sure I would play the dragons in a set championship format. I think dragons are much better in larger events. And having a lot of ones is good. You have to be careful as you go on later into the game for opposing Elsas, things like that. Like Diablo's always good, right? They're always drawing you cards. And if you've got library on board, you can play Broom, move to library, play another character, pop, draw 2 cards. But having 12, again, they can get a little cloggy when you get to that mid to late part of the game and you really need, like, where's my rabbit? Where's my Maui? Where's my removal cards? My Brawl? Where are my Finders Keepers? My friends? Where's my goats? And you're just drawing 1-drops. It's not the worst because they nearly always represent a card draw, but not always. Diablo does, but Bog is not safe. Against red decks, it's not safe. Against purple decks, it's not guaranteed draw. Broom can be if you've got enough characters and ink to be able to play the Broom and then play something else. But I also don't like playing Broom and then immediately popping it unless I absolutely have to, or unless it's because it's gone into the library and I'm drawing 2 off of it. Then it's absolutely fine. But I think you could go down to a lower count. 3 Fox I know is super controversial. It's not that I think that 4 Fox is wrong. I had to make cuts somewhere and I didn't want to cut anything else. I was originally not going to run Snakes at all. I think they're very slow at the moment. And Snake's a bit of a weird one anyway, because the best thing about Snake is bouncing rabbits and bouncing goats, which is obviously great. We've got 3 foxes here, so we can still bounce them. To be honest though, I don't think you always need to bounce rabbits infinite times. I think even if each rabbit only gives you 2 cards each when it came in and out of play, I still think that's super, super good. If you can bounce 1 rabbit once, that's already a minimum of an extra 2 cards. If you can sing Friends and then bounce it, that's great. And we're running a copy of Finders Keepers, which was really, really good. So as bouncing rabbits can be really good. Of course, you draw all the cards, but I actually don't think it's as necessary as it was. I actually think we're in a weird spot where, like, I don't think the meta is particularly fast or slow. I think we are somewhere in the middle where I don't think that we need to bounce a million rabbits, but I also think that there are enough control decks that you still need rabbits and they're better than genies, of course, outside of the use cases where genie is evasive and is helping dealing with evasive problems. But I think there is still enough control-y sort of decks in meta that rabbits still get a lot of value, even if they're each only drawing you 2 cards. Only. So yeah, I wasn't going to run Snakes. Playing it on turn 2 is like, it's fine, but it's super slow. It's a loss of tempo. There are good things about it, like you play your 1-drop, turn 2, you ink to 2, you quest, you bounce the snake, you play the snake and bounce your 1-drop, and then that 1-drop is your ink for the next turn, so that can be okay, but it's super slow. The 3 strength on board as well is really dangerous into SteelSong, because it can almost never turn sideways if they've got an Ursula or a Lawrence on board for them to be able to set up a Rapunzel trap. But 1 snake felt nice. It gave me that option of having something else that could bounce the rabbit or bounce my come into play abilities, and it also made my opponent respect if I was going into 8 ink and I had a Tremaine on board. There would be games where I would reveal the snake early, and then I could see the cogs turning on their face if I had a Tremaine on board and 7 ink. That if they play their shark or whatever, they're expecting me to go quest, ink, snake, Tremaine. So it created a bit of a mind game there as well. I think if you want to run more snakes, I think that's fine. I don't think 4 is the count anymore. It's not wrong. Like, again, having max 4s of everything means your deck is consistently doing what you want it to do. But I think it's kind of nice to have a little bit of variance in there and a couple of 1 or 2 obs that are going to be good for certain matches. And also, like it's kind of similar to what I said about Queen of Hearts a while ago, right? That it's amazing on turn 2. Anything after turn 2, most of the time, it's not great. And again, snakes are brilliant if you're bouncing things. If you're not, they're kind of just bad. So I think if you want to run more, you want to run 2 or 3, be my guest. 1 felt pretty nice. And then 1 copy of Finders Keepers. Like I said, I didn't build too much for the Emerald decks. Like, I considered Pegasus. I ran that for set championships, but that was because I was expecting a lot of Emerald Amethyst evasives, which can't really touch Pegasus. But Emerald still can. Now, it's sometimes still fine if they storm your Pegasus and they don't have the storm for something else, but I don't think it's that reliable. So Finders Keepers is a really nice card to have into discard, and it is an alternative way of giving yourself card advantage when either you don't find rabbits or you don't want to play to the board. Paying 5 to play Finders Keepers pass sounds slow, but you might not always want to play characters, especially if you're playing against Ruby decks, where you don't want to play more characters to the board. I don't want to play a rabbit and a Queen of Hearts. That just gives you more value. I'd rather play this Finders Keepers, draw 3, get to the point to force you to be prep, and then I'll put down my rabbits and they can have a good bounce around. So Finders Keepers was great. I also got to use my 1 enchanted that I've ever bought, and 3 library. Like, obviously great for the card draw, but just the pressure it puts your opponent under and the way it makes them play the game. So yeah, I was super happy with this list. If I was going into the same event again tomorrow, large field, I'd absolutely run the Malleys. I think the only changes I would make is I'd either go to 3/3 Bog and Broom, or I'd remove 2 Bog. I'd probably remove 2 1-drops. And I would probably go up to the 4th Fox. I do think 3 is fine, but of course Fox is super, super good. You want to see it on the pivotal turns. Again, 3 was fine, but I would probably go to 4. And then it would either be maybe 1 more Snake, maybe 1 more Elsa, maybe even the 4th Queen of Hearts. I did say at one point I thought 4 was wrong because, again, it's not a good card after turn 2, but it's so important to see. I think it would most realistically be another Snake or an Elsa, or even another location. Or if you don't mind going above 12 uninkables, then you might want to add in the second Madame Medusa or anything like that. But that's it. Super, super long video. But yeah, I was super happy with the deck. I was super happy with my run. Again, a huge shout out to everybody I met. There is another bit of footage that I want to show. I did a deck profile with someone that made top 16 with Amethyst Steel, but with a whole new world, which was very spicy. So expect that soon, and there's going to be more gameplay coming up on the channel over the next few days from my set championships the other week. But that's it from me for now. Wait, no. I do want to talk about this. This is going to be really, really brief because I promise you I'm going to talk about this a lot more on Tuesday, on the 6th. I've got a lot to say. An awful lot to say. A lot of positive, some negative as well. And I'm restricted in what I can say right now, which I hope the majority of my supporters understand. I'm going to add more context to this on Tuesday when I can talk about everything at length. I want to say, though, the fact that Worlds is a closed and private event, I'm so sad about it. And some people who might have seen some things may be thinking, I'm sure you're not that sad. I am. And I'm going to talk about it in a lot more detail on Tuesday. What I will say, if you have seen things and you just want to show your support for it, I love you. Please wait till Tuesday. That's all I'm going to say. that's it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you're brand new to the channel, please subscribe for all things Lorcana. Hit that like button to show support, and we'll see you soon.